is Gunther Haug, and I'm the co-founder of Spikenard Farm, together with my wife, Vivian. Spikenard Farm was founded in 2006. I was still working at the Pfeiffer Center in New York. It is a place that I helped to found a training for biodynamic agriculture, and that was started in 1996. And I didn't have any idea that I would be working with bees again so quickly, but there was an article in the New York Times, The Hush of the Hives, in October, I think it was, in 1996, and I thought, with the bees so much in crisis, maybe I can offer something. And I gave my first organic beekeeping workshop 2 months later at a farm in New York. And from then on, the bees became more and more important every year. So when I retired in 2007, I had already started Spikenard Farm, and two weeks later I was out in Illinois with my wife and a crew, and we started Spikenard Farm in Illinois on 610 acres. A donor had given us the land for that purpose, and that is actually what helped to get it started. We didn't have the means to do that ourselves, so it's actually a lot of donors, a lot of people who think that this is important. Some foundations, lots of people are part of this. This is not just our thing, this is really a community effort to do something for the bees. So we've been blessed to be able to go on every year anew and do what we think is very important for the bees and for the world. We look at the honeybee and what the honeybee really does on its own. It has survived millions of years, obviously, without our help. And if you look at the beekeeping practices over the last 120 years, you can see that the primary motive for the changes in beekeeping were what was actually advertised once: what makes bees profitable? What makes bees profitable? And that only works for a while, because everything that was invented, the plastic foundations and the sugar feeding and syrup feeding and queen breeding, artificial queen breeding, everything that we invented has served us and our dollar sign, and it has not served the honeybees. As a matter of fact, it has gone against the honeybees.
Spikenard was first created as a space where the bees could be healthy and they could thrive. And in order to create a place where that's possible, it's a focus on the landscape. So the farm component of the honeybee sanctuary includes flowers, acres of bottomland fields, and also trees and shrubs and bushes, and basically everything we've landscaped, and all the plants that we're growing here are for nectar and pollen for the bees, so that they have the best sources of food. And the basis for the bees to be healthy is that they have a good, diverse diet, and so we're providing all of what they need there. So a lot of our work and a lot of what we do is actually gardening. The beekeeping work is something that happens seasonally and is a huge part of what we're doing here as well, which is being beekeepers and taking care of our hives. Right now we have 31 colonies here, and they are thriving and healthy and strong. They've made it through another good winter, a good season here, and the dandelions and the orchard is coming into bloom now, which is a really great sign that the bees have made it through the winter and they're ready to start a new season. So the beekeeping methods that allow the bees to really make it through the winter time are ones that preserve that fantastic and diverse source of honey that the bees are making. They're gathering the nectar and pollen from the environment, and they're making their honey so that they can survive the winter at all. If they don't have that honey, then they can't make it through. And so our beekeeping practices are quite different from most other beekeeping practices in that we allow the bees to have as much honey as they need to make it through the winter time. And then in the spring, in April usually, when the dandelion comes into bloom, that's the first big source of nectar that lets us know the bees have made it through the winter. And then any honey that's left over then we can harvest and take and sell, things like that. But we don't harvest in the fall. Most beekeepers will harvest in the fall, and then they'll feed the bees sugar, or they'll feed the bees high fructose corn syrup, which are substances that actually make the bees sick. It changes the pH of their digestion and becomes more acidic, and they have a much greater susceptibility to diseases and virus and fungus and things like that breaking out in the colony, and they become weakened in their immune system. And weak bees have a much greater difficulty growing and being strong in the spring and surviving than ones that are raised on their own honey and doing it in the natural way, the way that they were meant to. This honey is for the bees first, and then for the humans, if there's enough. So there's a true surplus of honey that the bees always share with human beings. In a good year, there's always going to be enough for us. We don't have to worry we won't get enough. But often we don't worry enough about the bees that they have enough.
Biodynamic beekeeping goes back to biodynamic agriculture and the work of Rudolf Steiner, who gave over 6,000 lectures and wrote over 30 books on the most diverse subjects. And as scientists in Germany, for example, not long ago said, he's becoming more important because he showed alternatives to all the crises we are in. We are in an economic crisis, we are in a spiritual crisis, we are in an educational crisis. There is no end to the crisis we are in. And so biodynamic agriculture started in 1924 when what is now conventional agriculture just was really getting into a strong footing. And that is working with the land, with the soil, with the plant, in conjunction with the cosmos, not just, looking at chemicals. We have a class here where we teach that actually in September. And the biodynamic part is understanding the honeybee not only physically. We've made great progress, in physical discoveries, the bee dances, and fantastic thing that they have a democracy, they can come to a democratic decision, fantastic things. But to understand the honeybee actually as a spiritual entity, like the American Indians saw the buffalo and the bear and the fish, they didn't give homage and sacrifices to the physical buffalo. They realized there's a spiritual entity which we don't see with our physical eyes. And that's our approach, to look at the spiritual honeybee and see what that being actually needs.
And that's sort of the focus here at Spikenard, is teaching people beekeeping methods that really work, that actually keep the bees. And I say that because the bees are being lost. There's really a great crisis happening right now. In the last 2 years in America, each year we've lost an average of 42% of our bees. It's a rate that can't be sustained, even looking at the business side of things. If you're trying to get as much money and as much honey, but you have 40% of your bees being lost, something's going wrong with the beekeeping methods. Now it's becoming a matter of success to be able to keep the bees. You know, before it was, the environment was clean, you know, we're talking about 40, 50 years ago, the environment was clean and beekeepers didn't have to worry. They could focus on the honey. But now that the environment is so destroyed in a lot of ways, and the bees have lost their health for so long, they're at a place where they can't tolerate it anymore, the beekeeping methods that would only say, what can I get out of you? And so Spikenard is saying, what can we give to you? And in giving to the bees, in serving what they need, actually the bees give us more than enough.
Bees, I feel, are like the canary in the coal mine. You know, a lot of animals are in great need. The bats are dying, the bumblebees are getting lost, the native bee species are getting lost and diminished. So the honeybees sort of tell us, you have to do something different for the environment, in agriculture. And the crisis we are in, I feel, is really a blessing. Because a crisis always tells us that the path we are taking is not a good one. And the way we overcome the crisis is actually progress. So I think the way we work with the bees and for the bees now shows how we either can make progress or we are going to hit an even bigger crisis.
The basis of this sanctuary is those beekeeping methods being practiced. And so we're not just teaching, we're not just talking, which is the important part of getting the message out that there is a way to keep bees that's healthy. There is a way that the bees will survive. You know, our colony's success rates are off the charts in relation to the national averages. And that's because we're focusing on their health and they're showing us, yes, this works. You know, we're surviving. So with the bees surviving now and having worked with methods that Gunther has been cultivating for over 40 years now, we've come to a place where we can really share this knowledge through our courses, through webinars, through tours, through events, through writing books and articles and things like that. We've started to sort of spread the message, and we've joined a whole community of people that are doing the same. There are more and more people around the world, around the country, around Virginia, around Floyd, that are waking up to that the bees need something different and that they need a different way of beekeeping in order to survive and be healthy. And yeah, so there are people around the world doing amazing things now for the bees, and we're joining that stream and supporting it from where we are and from what we can do.
Well, we are now at Spikenard 10 years old. We are still in a childhood stage, you can say, just getting closer to puberty. And my hope is that Spikenard Farm can thrive insofar as the need for it actually with every year becomes greater. That these principles and methods come out more into the public through books, through articles, through webinars, through teaching. We teach all over the country and in Europe and Israel, and as a matter of fact, I'll be teaching in Australia soon via Skype. But you know, so our practices go all over the world, and the need is there. And so we hope that we get the support, the donations to be able to do the work. We are not going to get rich on it, but that's not the goal. We want to be able to serve the need. And the need is really there. And we are just this year starting more working with school classes. That's the future. School classes, university students. A class was just here 2 weeks ago. All the way from Missouri. They drove 16 hours to come here and work for a week. So that is how I see Spikenard growing and thriving, and hopefully more staff. We're all working, having at least 5 different hats. And so, yeah, with the blessings from above and from people, we can continue this work.
Everybody can grow a garden. Everybody can plant a little section for the bees, even if they only have a little patio or something where they have potted plants. It's such a gift to the bees to have more and more people consciously planting even just a flower, or a whole bed of flowers, or a whole acre of flowers, depending on what you can do. And having people focus on organic, not using a pesticide, and making that connection that the bees need a healthy plant. The bees can't take a genetically modified nectar or pollen and do something good with it. It makes them sick. Or the bees can't take a plant that has been sprayed with a pesticide and take it into their colony and do something good with it. It makes them sick. It's a poison that they can't deal with. So an organic garden that focuses on flowers, or even allowing your broccoli to bloom, for example, if you have a vegetable garden for the bees, for the butterflies, for the hummingbirds, because all of these pollinators are in danger. It's not just the honeybees. The bees are really in a crisis, and they need our help, and they need more and more people understanding that they're in a crisis and not just saying, oh, I don't care about that. But if we start to change the way that we're mowing our lawn, and we let the dandelions bloom, instead of spraying them. Or we talk to the people that are working in the roadside ditches and say, hey, please don't spray our ditch with pesticides. We're trying to promote a healthy landscape here for the honeybees. Things like that. We need to be creative. Everybody can do something. We shouldn't close any doors. The door should be wide open for people to really be creative and say, okay, how can we address this? How can we rise to this challenge together? Throughout the season, we're open every Friday, and we sell some of the best plants for the bees, some of the best sources of nectar and pollen, and they're beautiful to the eye as well. When the sanctuary is blooming with these plants, it's just a magical place to come and experience with all of the insect life that comes to visit us, and the birds too. And on those tours, we open people up to the magic of what a honeybee sanctuary can be for all of life, and human beings too. It's a sanctuary for us, where we can come and engage with nature in a different way and have a walk in a place that's completely clean and focused on the environment and, flowering trees and bushes and shrubs. And so the tours are a really wonderful opportunity to learn more also, because we'll go to the beehives and we'll talk about the different ones, the different hive shapes and sizes, and we have all kinds of different fun things for the bees here to show. And then, we have a little farm store, a little place where people can buy our products, and that's on every Friday from 11 till 6, and it starts April 28th. Every Friday we're open for people to come learn and garden and work along with us, and that's from 1 p.m. until 6 p.m. on Fridays. Our workshops, we teach some very basic beginning, how to get started with the bees, and we start with the equipment and where to get bees and all those very basic nitty-gritty details. And those workshops are generally at the beginning of the season when you need to start getting ready, so February and March. And then we have our first 2-day workshop in April, and that goes a lot deeper into these methods and kind of goes through the whole cycle of the year in terms of the beekeeping methods and what people need to know, and this greater philosophy of biodynamic beekeeping that we're teaching here. And so you get a much fuller picture in that April workshop. And then our workshops get even more in-depth as we go, and we have a 1-week workshop where people can come for almost a retreat experience here at the sanctuary, where half the day we're focused on the bees and beekeeping, and we'll actually open hives and go to the bees every single day together. It's very practical, very hands-on, and we have one We have one this year in May and one in July. And those week-longs, we also take the afternoon and we focus on the landscape. So we're gardening too, working with the forage for the bees and transforming the land so that they can learn that aspect as well. And then we have a 2-year beekeeper training program where people can graduate with a certificate in sustainable beekeeping. And that is for people who really want to learn all of the details and the full picture of our beekeeping methods. And we have some great success stories of people that have gone through that and then started an apiary of their own or a project of their own relating to the bees, and have really are taking on this message into their own places and into their homes and their communities.
I can say that we are very grateful to have more people realize that this is very important and give us the support of good thoughts, of volunteering, of donations, small and large. We have people giving us $5 or $10, and we also have people giving us $150,000. So we have no upper limit, of course. And we're very grateful that we can do this work and build up a sanctuary on a location as a practical demonstration and experience for what can be done for the bees.
The Honeybee Sanctuary is a place where you can come to get absolutely enthusiastic about the beauty and the joy of working with the honeybees. And it's a magical relationship that the human beings can have with the honeybees. And you ask any beekeeper, they've fallen in love. And we're here to allow people to fall in love with the honeybee all over again and get started on the right foot towards saving the honeybee.